What's up, you crazy sport fanatics? I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday and a happy new year. BTH is going to start 2018 off with a bang. With Sean McCabe, I'm James Koklek. What's up, Sean?
Just chilling, man. Just chilling. How you doing today?
You've never been better day in your life?
Never been better day in my life. I was wondering if you were going to call me out on not saying it, and you did, so very good.
I did. Well, I'm doing good, too. We got the weekend coming up. I am pumped. Playoff football, best time of year, wild card round, divisional round. But with football coming to an end in a month or so, we'll be bringing you lots of news regarding the baseball, spring training, both NHL and NBA news with their respective playoffs on the horizon at that point. But so much has happened over the last week in the NFL and college football. How do we decide what we're going to talk about? It's like going to your favorite ice cream parlor and deciding which flavor do you want today. Mint chocolate chip, Rocky Road, cotton candy sherbet. Well, we got some great topics today. The NFL season in review, plus playoff predictions, which is best available coaching gig in the NFL, and some more college football bowl season talk. There's only 2 teams remaining with 1 game left to play on Monday night. And one team who already finished their season thinks they're already national champions. Find out next during the opening rant.
Your number one source for sports.
You know who I can't stand? Kevin Durant.
He looks like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton had a kid.
Now, who can argue with that?
I hate Boston.
I'm the biggest Miami Heat hater you'll ever meet.
I just don't understand where you're getting your bogus information from.
What the hell are you even talking about?
Well, I'm sorry you're too freaking sensitive to handle the truth.
You think I'm crazy? I'm just getting warmed up.
You're now between the hash marks with James Koklek and Sean McCabe.
Over the weekend in college football, we had some of the biggest bowl games of the year. The New Year's Six. Everybody is talking about the Sugar Bowl and the Rose Bowl, which held the semifinal games for the college football playoff. Yes, we'll get to those games, don't worry, as there's a lot to talk about. But one game that also made headlines was the Peach Bowl. UCF entered the game 12-0 after going 0-12 in 2015, taking on a big-time team in the Peach Bowl, Auburn, who already beat 2 number 1 seeds during the regular season. This was UCF's toughest game by far, and they went on to beat Auburn 34-27 to end their season a perfect 13-0, the only team in the FBS to do so. UCF thought they belonged in the playoff and part of the top 4, and is now claiming they are national champions of college football and hosting a parade. Couldn't disagree more with how they look at this. Any team that goes 13-0 deserves some credit. But that does not mean you're the best team in the nation. Lots of stats and numbers go into this, along with play on the field. UCF had the 54th hardest schedule in the nation compared to the other 4 teams in the college football playoff. Alabama was 6th, Georgia was 7th, Oklahoma had the 2nd, and Clemson had the 4th hardest schedule. And those teams had a combined 4 losses between them. UCF played one top 10 team all season, and I know they beat Auburn by 1 touchdown, but chances are Auburn was overlooking them, thinking they deserved to be in the college football playoff, and didn't take UCF seriously. UCF let up 20 or more points 9 out of 13 games this season. 23 to Cincinnati, 21 to Eastern Carolina, 21 to Navy, 33 to Austin Peay, 24 to Southern Methodist, 24 to UConn, 42 to Southern Florida, 55 to Memphis, and 27 to Auburn, and let up 19 points to Temple. Clemson, Bama, and Georgia had 7 combined games letting up 20 or more points. That's 2 less than UCF did by themselves. Oklahoma didn't have a great defense, but their number 1 offense in the country drove them straight to the playoff. UCF does deserve a lot of credit. It is not common to see a team go 13-0, but let's be real here. They are national champions of the Peach Bowl, not of college football. They can't handle the Alabamas and the Clemsons of the world. Nobody expects them to. But if UCF or any team wants to make the college football playoff, their best bet would be to move into a Power 5 conference, because playing in a non-Power 5 conference will hurt you in the standings year in and year out. The in-conference strength of schedule for the Power 5 conference does not compare to a non-Power 5 conferences. In the Big Ten, Penn State, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Michigan State all have to square off against each other. In the SEC, Alabama has to play LSU, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, sometimes Georgia and Florida. And I haven't even gotten to the other 3 Power 5 conferences. Who does UCF play in conference? There's so much competition inside the Power 5 conferences that when you play in a non-Power 5 conference against non-ranked teams all year, your record will not indicate how good you actually are. UCF should be happy they got to be part of the New Year's Six Bowls, won the Peach Bowl, and accept who they are and how far they've come and stop acting like they're the best team in the country. I will give you all the credit in the world for the turnaround for this team, but let's just get one thing straight. You are not national champions.
Wow. I have to agree with a lot, almost everything of what you're saying. I love the fact, I know you're hating on the parade, but I'm absolutely loving it. They deserve to throw themselves a parade. They won the schedule that they had. But you know what? Let's look at it. I mean, they have control of their own schedule. They make their own schedules every year. This isn't a thing where you're just, it's not like the NFL, they just select it for you. You get to choose who you're going to play out of conference. And they didn't play anybody worth a damn out of conference. And the one game that they would have had if it didn't get rained out was against Georgia Tech, who is a subpar team in an ACC conference that was subpar this year, as we saw by Clemson, and just every FSU was terrible this year. Louisville was pretty bad this year as well. But you know what? I love the fact, I absolutely love the fact that UCF is saying, fuck the system, and we absolutely dominated the game that we had to win, and they did. But I agree with you also, Auburn overlooking this team. They're not excited to play UCF, and UCF is totally excited to play Auburn. I mean, they have a chance to shock everybody. And they did. They absolutely did. So, like, kudos to them. But their strength of schedule, you brought it up, 54th. You mentioned Alabama, Georgia, and Oklahoma. Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Clemson. Ohio State's was third hardest strength of schedule. Penn State was 5th, and even Wisconsin was 14th. Now, this only proves my point more that we need to go to an 8-team playoff. And this is how you would do it. You just have the 7 best teams that in all of college football, and then the one other team would be a team from the group of 5, which is your AAC, which is where UCF comes from, your Conference USA, your Mountain West, and your MAC, and your Sun Belt. You need, and just have one of those, the best team in there. They go 13-0, great. One of them usually ends up running the table in one of their conferences. Let them go against them. If UCF played, if they were the number 8 seed in an 8-team playoff, they would have played Clemson. You're telling me that the way Clemson looked against Alabama, that UCF would not have the same kind of shot that they had against Auburn?
With the way they played against Alabama, yes, but I also think that the way they played against Alabama is kudos to Alabama's defense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think UCF in that kind of moment, it'd be the same kind of situation where they'd be super excited to play Clemson. Clemson, yeah, it's the playoff, but UCF, like...
They'd overlook them.
Yeah, I think they would overlook them, and not saying that they would flunder like Auburn did, but maybe it would be a super close game and a game worth watching, and I think that's where UCF needs to realize, hey, we need to push for this, because it's not fair. But they also need to schedule harder opponents. Like next year, I know they're not going to have Scott Frost anymore. He's going to Nebraska. He has a bunch of ties there. But you build the schedules. Whoever you get somebody that has big ties to other places so you can schedule a Wisconsin or Ohio State or an Alabama. Just schedule those teams or tougher teams or less tougher teams.
I think they'd need to, if they don't move into a Power 5, which is it's probably never going to happen because teams would have to come out for them to join a Power 5, and teams don't want to leave Power 5 conferences.
Absolutely not.
But you'd have to schedule, I think, 3 or 4 games from Power 5s, a Georgia or an Auburn in the regular season and win at least 3 of them, and 2 of them by big margins to show that you belong. Because if you're losing, by a touchdown or 2 touchdowns, or you're winning by 1 here or there, you're not really proving anything because these teams are playing those kinds of teams on a weekly basis.
But I tend to disagree with that, because I think if you schedule 3 and you end up beating 1, because it's most likely going to be at their house. These games for these lower schools are not normally neutral field games or even at home. It's at the other team's house. So if they win one of those games against let's say Michigan or Michigan State or LSU, like teams that are good but not super amazing, but good teams in those conferences, or if they beat like a USC maybe, an upper echelon team, and then lose the other two. I think that would be a good staple, and then they just dominate their conference. Like I think that's worthy of being considered.
I think it hurts. It really hurts not being in a Power 5. Look at Notre Dame. They're considered a team that's on the level of a Power 5, but they're in no conference.
Yeah.
And that's going to hurt them year in and year out.
But the thing is with them, and it's because it's Notre Dame. Who Notre Dame is, they schedule those tough opponents every year. They have the schedule. If they go undefeated, or even if they go one loss, they're going to be in the final.
In the Final Four, yeah. And they were, I think, ranked third at one point this season.
And if they beat Miami, they would have, and they beat Stanford, they definitely would have. But I think this is what needs to happen for these Group of 5 teams. They just need to start, and I actually heard that they are already talking about doing this, is have their own Final Four. So that'd be, again, those 5 conferences, the AAC, Conference USA, Mountain West, MAC, and Sun Belt, have them form their own Final Four and play it out for that. And if you did that this year, it would most likely be UCF, FAU, Fresno State, and Boise State. UCF, obviously great season this year. Fresno State and Boise State were both ranked in the top 25, and FAU dominated the last 10 games on their schedule.
Yeah, all those games would be good if they faced off against each other, and that's not a bad idea. And Division II has their own championship. Carson Wentz won, I think, 3 out of 4 years he was in college at North Dakota State.
Yep.
So there is different championships in college football. That's a great idea. I actually did hear today that they've talked about bringing it to an 8 team. It's not on the table at the moment that all Power 5 teams would have to agree on going to an 8 team, and right now it would have to be ununanimous, and that's not going to happen at the moment. I think that is their best bet. But I want to move on to the actual semifinal games that happened this weekend, the Sugar Bowl and the Rose Bowl. Let's start with the Rose Bowl. Georgia, this was a classic. Georgia, Oklahoma. It was a really good game. You know what? After the first quarter, Baker Mayfield was just tossing the rock around like there was no tomorrow, completing every pass, even caught a touchdown pass. They looked unbeatable at the moment. They looked like they were going to run away with that game real quick, and then all of a sudden, it's like Georgia snapped into something, and they were like, oh, we're actually here to play football, not to watch. And
I would say that field goal right at halftime, I think that was a huge momentum driver going into the second half, and then not making Fromm, the freshman quarterback for Georgia, not making him do things he's not comfortable doing. They continued to run the ball. They continued to shove it down their throat, and Chubb and Michelle just dominated that game.
Chubb and Michelle had ridiculous stats. Michelle, 11 rushes for 181 yards and 3 touchdowns.
And including the game winner. The game winner, I think it was 27 yards, exactly.
And then Chubb was 14 for 145 and 2 touchdowns. Combined, that's 25 rushes for over 300 yards and 5 touchdowns between the two of them. That is unreal. But going back to that field goal, huge. It brought it from a 17 to a 14.
Yeah, it made 2 possessions.
That's a big difference.
Absolutely.
Huge difference.
Absolutely. It's a key number. And you know what? I am really disappointed because I don't give 100% credit to Georgia. If I had to break it, like, is it Georgia to give it to, or did Oklahoma blow it? I'd probably say like 60-40. Georgia deserved to win the game, but Oklahoma, they were just stopped playing how they were playing. They forgot that they had the Heisman Trophy winner on, and they stopped using him. They kept running the ball, and they were conservative. And that final, the drive where Georgia scored to tie it up to go into overtime, the drive before that where Oklahoma had it, they did 3 straight rushing plays, and it's like, dude, come on, just use Baker Mayfield. He is your Heisman Trophy winner, and much better shot than just 3 straight runs.
Their O-line was not great either. Georgia had 5 sacks and that blocked field goal at the end of the game. Huge. But let me ask you a question. Do you think that Lincoln Riley being his first season as a head coach in a big school like Oklahoma, not having Bob Stoops there, do you think that played into a fact why they collapsed, why they kind of went conservative and they didn't trust Baker in a sense? Do you think that if Bob Stoops was on the sideline having that experience, the game would have went differently?
Well, no. I think Lincoln Riley, he made a mistake that I don't think he's ever going to make again, because if you look at how he coached this season, I think he did a more than superb job. I think he's a perfect replacement for Stoops. Stoops is actually known for blowing the big game like this. I know Riley did it this time, but I think he's different than Stoops. I think he's going to I think he's going to bring Oklahoma a national championship at some point in time, just because of how good he is with the offense. And really, I think a problem is that I believe the defensive coordinator is Bob Stoops' brother or son or something. It's somebody in Bob Stoops' family, and I think getting rid of him, it's on the defensive side of the ball, getting rid of him would be also do wonders, because Lincoln Riley can bring in who he wants, who he feels comfortable with. Not saying it...
And not have Bob Stoops looking over his shoulder in a sense.
Exactly. So, and that defense is terrible. I mean, that's the problem with this team. I mean, Georgia, I don't remember everything of Georgia's offense. I mean, their running backs are incredible, but Fromm's nothing to be afraid of or anything like that. So, but I do want to give credit. I'm not bashing on Fromm. I do want to give credit to Fromm, because I thought he played an insanely great game-managing game, and he made the plays when he had to make the plays, and he let the running backs do all the work.
I think that one key stat moving forward for Georgia, and this, I think, if this happens, he will make history. He will be the first true freshman quarterback to win a national championship. Jalen Hurts of Alabama could have done it last year. Yep. Alabama lost. We discussed this before the show about how many plays. We'll go into that in a little bit. But he will be the first true freshman to win a national championship. And I think that that's going to hurt Georgia in the long run of having not a veteran signal caller in that big game. I mean, the Rose Bowl, yes, is a big game, but it is not the national championship game. And
best Rose Bowl.
Last year's Rose Bowl was pretty damn good between USC and Penn State.
Yeah,
52-49.
If that game was a playoff game, you could say that one was probably better than this one. Because this one was a playoff game, that I would put this one higher. Also, I don't think I put the highest because of the Texas USC game was a Rose Bowl game. So.
Oh, that might be the best of all time. Back in 2006, Reggie Bush and Vince Young.
Yeah,
I remember watching that game. I was in 8th grade. 8th grade in Mr. Kirkpatrick's homeroom. I don't know how I remember that, but he was my science teacher in 8th grade, and I remember walking in the day after Texas won. It was pretty crazy, but Georgia, you got to give them credit. They showed up. They played in a big-time game. Nobody thought they'd be here at the end of the season. I know I didn't. So, it is what it is. Oklahoma's got to really step it up on defense, but I think Oklahoma's here to stay. They got a young coach. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be able to recruit for years and years and years and years.
Absolutely. All right, tell me what you think about the Give Me Your Clemson Alabama review.
Can you just tell everybody what my face looks like?
Yeah, no. Yeah.
I've got a glowing smile on.
Big ass smile on, ear to ear.
Well, that's because Alabama showed Clemson who was boss. I think you tell the number one team in the nation, aka Alabama. And yes, I'm a fan of Alabama, but these are facts. They were the best team in the nation going into the playoff. They were ranked 4th because of the stupid loss to Auburn. And if they didn't lose that game, they're 1st overall, and they're not even playing Clemson in the first round of the playoffs. But that being said, Clemson, I think, was a little cocky going into this game, but they got a different team this year. They're a rushing team this year. Deshaun Watson, yes, he could run the ball and he's super athletic, but he was known as a pocket passer, and that's what he was good at in college. Clemson averaged over 200 rushing yards per game this year. That's insane. They didn't even surpass 200 yards total against Alabama. You rile the beast, and the beast is going to show up to play. And one key factor, they had 5 weeks this year to prepare, rather than the last 2 years. They only had 6 or 7 days to prepare for the game. And I think that went a long way this year into showing who was the better team, who's the better coach, and who has the better team overall.
So did the NCAA get it right?
Putting Alabama in, yes. Did they get the order right? Maybe they could have left Oklahoma out. Maybe I don't want to say they could have left Georgia out, but the way Clemson played, maybe leave Clemson out. They didn't look like a top 4 team.
Yeah, okay. So, I don't think the NCAA got it right at all because, not saying anything against Alabama. I have Alabama number 1. But Clemson was slightly overrated, and Oklahoma, you've been saying it all year, their defense has been absolutely terrible. They played well in the first half, but it's like they didn't play a complete game. And Ohio State is way better. They absolutely throttled USC. Penn State absolutely throttled Washington. If they just didn't turn the ball over, that game would have been insanely high scoring. That game was
lit.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And if you took Penn State's games, the game in the Horseshoe at Ohio State, 35-20 with 7:25 left in the third, 21-3, 11 minutes into the second. You give me that situation. Tell me I have that situation, and 9 times out of 10, Penn State's going to win that game. And they only lost that Michigan State game because it was 3.5-hour rain delay. So they're in a game mode for like 7 hours now, And it's in Michigan State. So hey, by a total of the 2 losses they had by a total of 4 points this year. Could you imagine if just one little bounce just went their way in each of those games? Because those games were one little bounce.
I can't disagree with you, especially after seeing the way Clemson played before these games. I would have said Oklahoma could go, and you could put either Ohio State or Penn State in. I wouldn't have taken Clemson out before this game was played, the Sugar Bowl. But after, they really did not look good, and I think Penn State and Ohio State would have given a better game to an Alabama or to a Georgia.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Although the Georgia game was phenomenal, I don't think it would have. I think it would have been just as good, just not as high scoring.
I can completely agree with that. I have my top 8 right here. Who, like, going back to how I had want to do the 8 playoff teams. I have Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State 3rd, Penn State 4th, Clemson 5th, Wisconsin 6th, Oklahoma 7th, and then UCF would be 8th. And I have UCF 8th, like, not even just because they are a team from the group of 5. I think they are the 8th best team. I mean, they proved that they can play with the big boys in a one-game situation. Well, this is a one-game situation, so that's all you're preparing for. You're just playing for one game.
I can't hate on that. I don't think they belong in the top 4, but I can't say that they don't belong in the top 8. They were 12th going in.
Yeah.
So beating an Auburn, you're definitely going to jump into the top 10.
And then not to mention, I know people may think, well, okay, Alabama, it would be such a huge favorite against UCF because that's how it would be, 1 versus 8. But Alabama was a huge favorite against Washington last year, and Washington, like, I think it would be like the same amount of points, wasn't it? Like 15. It was a 2-score game at least, or spread before 2-point favorite before the game, and I think UCF would be about that same kind of underdog.
Yeah, and I think that the game would roughly end the same way. I believe Alabama won in the 2-score range, somewhere in there. It was a decent game in the first quarter, and then Alabama take off.
And that's exactly how I would think this game would go.
Now, how do you think the national championship is going to go? We got an all-SEC national championship this year.
All right. I've been kind of, giving it to you with Bama's loss all year. Well, since they lost.
It's been almost 2 months.
It's been almost 2 months, and they didn't look good against that Mississippi State game. So I had to give it to you there. But to think that Bama is going to lose this game, it's just not going to happen. I promise you, it's not going to happen. Alabama is going to win this game by at least 10 points, in my opinion. And let me just give you some pros for the Crimson Tide. Coaching. Huge advantage. I'd say Nick Saban has a coaching advantage over every coach in college football. 2 of them, I would say it's dead even, and 1 of them he just whooped last weekend.
Let me guess. So Dabo is one of the evens, and the other one is Urban Meyer.
Correct. And I think to be even, no advantage there. But this is Kirby Smart. Now, nothing against Kirby Smart. I think he's a fantastic coach. I think he's doing a fantastic job. He moved from Alabama. He moved from Alabama to Georgia, but he's not Nick Saban, and the understudies of Nick Saban, it's an incredible stat. When you have these super coaches like Nick Saban and Bill Belichick, and there's other coaches that have huge trees of coaches that stem off of them, the main coach always dominates them in play.
Something to look for during this game too is that Georgia and Clemson kind of have the same offense. They're running offenses. Clemson uses their quarterback to run and their running back. It's going to be Clemson and Georgia kind of have the similar offenses. They both love to run the ball. Clemson loves to run with Kelly Bryant. He's a running quarterback rather than a passing quarterback. They got 2 great running backs, even though one was hurt for half the game. You can't take that away. But also, I mean, I don't think it made much of a difference. Georgia's got the 2 great running backs. We just told you their stats from the last game in the Rose Bowl, but that was against Oklahoma's horrendous defense. Now you're going up against probably who's jumped from number 2 back to number 1 defensively across the nation. Running the ball for 300 yards is simply not going to happen against Alabama. You're going to have to find another way to win because they know that the true freshman quarterback is not going to be he's not going to throw the ball a lot. So what's Alabama going to do? They're going to give single coverage on the outside. They're going to have 1 safety over the top, and they're going to put 8 or 9 in the box. I mean, it's going to be over. I don't think that there's a way for Georgia to beat Alabama. They're just not built that way.
The thing that has to happen is Jake Fromm has to early establish some sort of pace with the offense. He has to do it himself. He has to get completions. He has to make some downfield, not all, but some. And he has to open it up a little bit to open things up for these running backs. Or else, if he starts out terribly, then they're going to go to the run, and then that's when Alabama's really going to feast. So if he can get off to an early start, this is going to be a really good game. I don't think they'll win. I still don't think they'll win if he has a good game. So, but maybe they could, if he has the good game that some people think he's going to have, but I personally don't. Not yet. Not as a true freshman.
You got to go through learning curve.
Yeah, not as a
Jalen
true
Hurts did it
freshman.
last year.
Exactly. Not as a true freshman. I don't think you're going to be able to do this against this team. And you want to know what I think is another pro for the Crimson Tide? This game is in Georgia. It's in Atlanta, Georgia, but it's not at Georgia's home field. I think a lot of people are misconceiving that, this is basically a Georgia home game. Yes, they'll have more fans there, but Alabama played in the stadium earlier this year. Georgia played one game in the stadium as well, so they know the stadium very well. They know how it is to go to this environment.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but this game is in Atlanta, and University of Georgia plays in Athens.
Correct.
They don't even play in the same cities.
Yeah.
This is not technically.
It's 70 miles apart.
Okay, and 70 miles still.
Yeah.
Pretty big chunk of mileage.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, if you think you're gonna keep Alabama fans out of it, I mean, I think it's gonna be like 60-40 Georgia, or maybe 65-35 Georgia, but to think that Alabama's not gonna have their own cheering section is a little bit asinine.
Crazy little stat is Georgia tickets to sit behind the Georgia sideline are roughly $300 to $500 more expensive per ticket than the Alabama side.
Wow, interesting. And I've also heard that these tickets for the national championship game are the most expensive tickets for a national championship game ever, on average.
I believe it. I checked. I actually want to go. I am an Alabama fan. Atlanta is not that far from here. It's an 8-hour drive? I can make that one day. And,
Like 2,500, I think, was the average.
Sitting in the top level, row 27, cost starting at $2,017, and you're 3 rows from having your back up against the cement wall.
Exactly. Another thing for Alabama here, they've been here before. They know the routine of going to the national championship game, having won a game that was huge where you had 30 days off, winning a game that was huge, then moving on to the next level, only having 7 days to prepare. Yeah, it's a normal week, but it's different from the 30 days you had. And they're about their business this year. If they had won the national championship last year, maybe they'd be coming off a little bit hesitant, a little bit cocky, we're going to dominate this game against Georgia. No, they're pissed off. They lost on the very last play. It's not like they were losing the entire game and they just got beat.
They lost on the last play, but they didn't lose the game. Clemson beat them.
Yeah, and it was because of Deshaun Watson.
And
really
Deshaun Watson is going to be an MVP of the NFL one day. I'm calling it right now. He is that good. As long as he can stay healthy, he's that good. And another little weird stat is, how tired did Alabama look down the stretch? Mississippi State didn't look good. They lost to Auburn.
Well, they lost the linebackers.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. They had, I think it was 48 missed starts on defense this year. 36 of them by linebackers.
Wow.
That's that, and then only 2 of them are still missing, and they got the rest back for this game. Everybody was basically fully healthy. They basically had their full team for the first time since the first quarter of week 1 against FSU, when they lost 2 linebackers for the season. And that, I think, went a long way, having 5 weeks to rest, getting those guys back. You could see the fresh legs in Alabama. They looked like they were going to jump through your screen when they're going for sacks.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a slight concern, and if the Anthony Jennings injury that was suffered at the end of the Clemson
knee
game,
surgery.
Yeah, so, and he just came out. I think it was today he came out, or no, it was Wednesday he came out and said, "Hey, I'm getting surgery and I can't
I'm done
play."
for the season.
Exactly. Does that concern you at all?
A little bit, but at the same time, this is the national championship. This isn't a regular season game, and I think that the rest of the Tide players will step up and say, this is the last game. Minkah Fitzpatrick, this is his last game as an Alabama Crimson Tide. He's probably going to go down as the best defensive player to ever play for Nick Saban right now. He's from, yes, my home state, New Jersey. I'm proud of that. But you know what? He's going to be a top 5 corner in the league one day in the NFL, and it could be as soon as next year. He is that good. He is that smart when he's on the football field. He's the captain, and I don't think he's going to let this team go out with a loss. Not to end his Alabama career. He's had too good of a career, too good of 3 seasons in a row, and they're just not going to go out on a loss again. Last year, Clemson ran 99 plays to Alabama's 60. They couldn't get off the field on third down, or they couldn't stay on the field on third down. I think they were 2 for 14 or 2 for 16 against Clemson last year. That's where the game ended. Right there, they couldn't stay on the field. Clemson ran 9. You can't win a game with your defense on the field for 99 plays, and I think that that's going to be a totally different game this year, and Alabama is really going to bring it to them.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Give me a final score.
35-17 Alabama.
Okay.
17-point game.
Yeah, no, I have 28-10.
Or 18-point game. Sorry, I'm terrible at math.
Yeah, okay, we have the same amount
28-10?
margin. Yeah, I have 28-10. Yeah, about 1 hour before game time, I'm gonna break out the Brinks truck for this one. So
I can't wait. Monday night. This is gonna be a game for the books. And you know what? And I hate to rag on Georgia, but I'm not going to. They're here to stay. They're going to be a good team for a long time. Kirby Smart's a good coach. He's going through growing pains now, too. They're going to lose this game most likely, and nobody would be surprised if they do, and this is only going to make them better. Nick Saban's not going to be around forever. And all of these other coaches, Dabo Swinney, who's pretty young, Kirby Smart, these coaches will get more chances at championships. When Nick Saban is out of the picture, I see him staying 5 years or less more, and then he's going to retire. He is pretty old at this point. He's in his mid-60s, mid to late 60s. But coming up next, we got some NFL playoff predictions. What's the best coaching job available out there right now? And the NFL season in review right here on BTH.
You're listening to Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe, brought to you by an unknown sponsor we don't have yet. Now back to the show.
welcome back to Between the Hash Marks. We're just going to jump right into it here. We have our 2017 NFL season in review. And I'm going to get right into my first thing here. We have most unexpected team that made the playoffs. And you know what? It has to be the Buffalo Bills. They have not made the playoffs since 1999. It's the longest streak in the NFL, and I believe it's also the longest streak in the four major sports. Going into this season, could you honestly tell me the Buffalo Bills were going to be in the playoffs?
No.
Yeah, so that's who I
definitely
gotta put it as the number one team, most unexpected team in the playoffs. How about you?
I've got the Jaguars for the same reasons. Did you see the Jaguars moving into the playoffs this year?
No, I think I had them going about 5-11 this year.
So somewhere in that range for me too. You know what? Blake Bortles played well down the stretch. He had the 3 games with multiple touchdowns, no turnovers. That kind of changed in week 16 and 17. He went back to the same old Blake Bortles.
Unfortunately.
But you know what? Their defense was number 1 in the league. I didn't see that either. So I thought we'd see improvement, but not this much. Jags definitely really surprised me this year, and best of luck to them.
Yeah, no, I actually had them as my second team. I knew the defense was going to be good. I didn't know it was going to be, I'm going to pick it off 4 times and I'm going to score a couple times and I'm going to put the offense in really good situations. And I also didn't expect Fournette to really have this amazing of a year.
It's, you know what's crazy is that like usually on a regular year you can do this little segment and say, all right, well, definitely this team. But this year you got the Rams, you got the Vikings, you got the Jaguars, you got the Bills. It's like, which team really was the biggest surprise? But I think these two were.
Yeah, I think the Vikings, I had them, I thought they would maybe make the playoffs, but I knew they would be a good team. I just thought they had a tough schedule. But I didn't expect Sam Bradford to go down, and then they didn't miss a beat at all. I did not expect Case Keenum to really lead the charge there.
Neither did I.
All right. Biggest surprise in the NFL for me is Sean McVay turning Jared Goff into a pretty damn decent quarterback. Just going over his stats from 2016 to 2017, he led the Los Angeles Rams to an 0-7 record in 2016. Very good. This year, 11-4, killed it. Completion percentage in 2016 was 54.6%. This year, 62.1. That's a huge increase over one season. Now, yards, he had 3,800 yards this year, only 1,000 last year, but only on pace for about a little over 2,000. He had 5 touchdowns and 7 interceptions in 2016. 2017, same amount of interception at 7, played a bunch more games and 28 touchdowns. Yards per attempt, 5.3 in 2016, 8.0 this year. The QB rating in 2016, 63.6. That is atrocious. I mean, we were talking about him being, wow, is he like the 31st or 32nd best quarterback here? This year, 100.5 quarterback rating. QBR, a decent 48.4 this year, a terrible, almost historically terrible last year at 22.2. Who was your biggest surprise this year?
Well, they are definitely a surprise, even though I kind of predicted this. But I have the New Orleans Saints and the way the way they're winning.
Okay.
It's not the Drew Brees show anymore. Their run game is, don't get me wrong, they get a lot of receptions. I'll go into that. But their run game is ridiculous. And their defense is making plays. They weren't great. They were ranked 17th on defense over the course of the year. That's bottom half of the league. But they made opportunistic plays, and they got turnovers when they needed a turnover. As I said, it's not the Drew Brees show anymore. Alvin Kamara took the league by storm. He just grabbed the league by the horns and started riding with it. He had 728 yards on the ground this year, averaged 6.1, and had 8 TDs, along with 81 receptions, 826 receiving yards, and another 5 touchdowns. That is good for 13 touchdowns on the year as a rookie. Now you got to go to Ingram. Ingram, 1,124 yards on the ground, 4.9 average, basically 5, so 5 and 6, 12 TDs, 58 receptions for 416 yards. You do the math, 12 and 13, that's 25 touchdowns from your running backs alone. Completely different way they play. I know that some of them were receiving, but still, you have a two-headed monster here. And what's crazy about it is that I thought Adrian Peterson was going to be the lead of this monster. He's not even on the team anymore.
And you bring up the fact that this is not the Drew Brees show anymore, but Drew Brees, well, because Aaron Rodgers is out right now, Drew Brees is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL right now. He has not missed a beat at all. While a lot of quarterbacks seem to be falling off, he has not missed a beat.
Well, not that he's missed a beat, but when people are talking about the Saints this year, how often do you hear Drew Brees' name? It's Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram.
Absolutely. But because it's not like Drew Brees is playing terribly, he's still being Drew Brees, but now he can hand the ball off to 2 great running backs.
Or he can just pitch it to him or throw a slant outside or a little hook, and boom, they're running for a touchdown. Alvin Kamara really took the league by storm. They're going to be good for a long time.
Yeah.
As long as they have a predecessor for Drew Brees who can just step in it and hand the ball off and learn on the go, I think that their smartest move would be to draft a quarterback this year. Let him sit behind Drew Brees another year, 2 years, and let him flourish in the system. They're not going to miss a beat for years to come.
Well, it's funny, too, because at the narrative for the Saints at the beginning of this year is who's he going to be traded to? And people thought he was, maybe going to Jacksonville or maybe going here and maybe going there. And it's funny how just 5 months, 6 months later, boom, it's like, okay, the Saints are competing for a championship right now. So now moving on to the biggest letdown of the 2017 season. And to me, it is the Oakland Raiders. They were 12-4 last year. 12-4 despite Derek Carr getting hurt. And I remember everybody saying, wow, New England looks terrible against the Texans. Imagine if they had to play Derek Carr and the Oakland Raiders, and New England wouldn't even have a shot in this game at all. Well, just 1 year later, they're 6-10. I know Derek Carr missed a game. I know Cooper missed a game, but he played terribly all year. I know Crabtree missed a game or 2. I know the defense, you supposedly bolstered up your offensive line. They obviously did not play well at all. You could not run the ball worth a damn. Sorry, Marshawn Lynch. I mean, he was good at the one, but he didn't have those broken out runs.
Yeah, he's not the same beast mode anymore. Yeah. And he's older now, though.
Exactly. So yeah, that's who my biggest letdown of the 2017 season is. How about you?
Well, I can't wait to hear some Raiders news coming up, but I have the Seahawks. And the Seahawks are my biggest letdown. Why? It's the first year under Russell Wilson that they're missing the playoffs. They didn't seem like they had the Seahawks identity this year, that ground and pound, that play rugged defense. Teams are throwing all over them this year. Teams are running all over them this year. They were not the same Seahawks. Their home field advantage is not the 12th man that it used to be. And a lot of it, I think, I stand true to this. They have a lot of bandwagon fans. When that team goes south, a lot of their fans are going to go south too. And you know what? Their defense also looks like it's going to break up this offseason because of injuries, but also how they kind of played. And they got to spend money elsewhere to put the complete team back together. Earl Thomas doesn't look like he's going to be back. Cam Chancellor doesn't look like he's going to be back. Cliff Averill doesn't look like he's going to be back. Lots of talent big playmakers on this team don't look like they're going to be back. And all of this is a result of basically them missing the playoffs this year, not having the team that they thought they were going to have, and they're kind of said, you know what, we had our run, we won a Super Bowl, we were really good, it's time to restart. And maybe Pete Carroll retires because of this, because he's also the oldest coach in the league. Does he want to go through another rebuild? Because the Seahawks could be going towards that path now.
All right. Who is your MVP of the 2017 season?
I've got Todd Gurley, and I know he's not the favorite, but these numbers tell me otherwise. Yes, I know over 1,000 yards is a good season, but 1,305 on the ground, that's a respectable amount. You'd like to see maybe 1,800 from an MVP candidate, but here's the kicker. He had 4.7 average on the ground. Basically, every 2 runs is a first down. He had 13 touchdowns. He also had 64 catches for another 788 yards, averaged 12.3. Every catch was a first down for them, and 6 more touchdowns. He had 19 total touchdowns on the year, and I think that has to do with, yes, Sean McVay being a great coach, and also helping Jared Goff form into this MVP candidate in himself. And I think Todd Gurley is owed a lot of credit to where the Rams are today.
Okay. Yeah, no, my MVP, I had to pick Tom Brady because in my mind, there's really nobody else. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was having an amazing year until he got hurt. Carson Wentz was having an amazing year until he got hurt. So I have to say Tom Brady. If you took Tom Brady off the Patriots right now, they'd be in the same situation if he got hurt, like
as the
Eagles.
Packers.
Yeah, as the Packers and as the Eagles right now. It doesn't look like I know they won their last 2 games, or the 2 games where Nick Foles actually played.
No, they lost to the Giants 6-0.
Or
last game of the season, Cowboys.
Yeah, but he didn't play the whole game. He played like a quarter, and then they took him out. So it's like there's that. I know he won the other 2 games, but Hoyer for New England wouldn't. Yeah, I mean Hoyer's probably like the 30th best quarterback in the NFL right now, but. Yeah, so I have Brady number 1. I mean, his numbers for the first 3 quarters of the season were absolutely incredible. The last quarter of the season, yes, statistics were down, but the team didn't miss a beat. If you look at how they played against Miami, yeah, that game was trash. But throw that out the window because they were looking forward to Pittsburgh, and they handled Pittsburgh very well on the offensive side of the ball. And not to mention when they did what they needed to do to beat the Bills and the Jets. That in their mind, they own these teams every single time they play them, so they didn't play 100%. And if you look, Tom Brady didn't play well, yeah, but they won 26-6.
Yeah, I'm sick of it.
And
I'm sick of it.
Yeah. So he may not have had all the crazy stats that maybe Carson Wentz still has. I have Carson Wentz as second. I mean, he ended up the season more touchdowns than Tom Brady, 3 less games, and then I would give it to Gurley number 3. I just can't give it to him at number 1 because I think the Rams, he was great on the impact and that big impact play. I'm not going to take that away from him, but I think a lot of what their success has to do with is Jared Goff is a pretty decent quarterback.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you just look back to last year where Goff wasn't as good, Gurley wasn't as good. So
they went hand in hand, whether they're good or bad. I know I drafted Todd Gurley in second round of the fantasy this year, and I traded him for David Johnson.
Yeah.
So look how that worked out for me. I still won the championship.
Right. Okay. Going on into the best NFL coaching jobs available, we have 5 coaching jobs right now. It's the Colts, the Cardinals, the Giants, the Lions, and the Bears. Oh my. And we also have the Raiders. We'll talk about the Raiders just after this because, huge news happened this very day. We are recording on Friday, January 5th. Huge news happened today. James, I'm having trouble finding out which job is the best coaching job available out of these 5 teams. I've written down pros and cons for every single team, and I don't think any of them are that amazing. If you put a gun to my head, I think the Chicago Bears job is the best job. Let me tell you why. The pros of this job, Mitchell Trubisky is showing progress. He had a couple really good games this year. I know he had a couple crap games, but he had a couple really good games, and he can be molded. He's still a blank slate. Look at Jared Goff from last year to this year, and I would say Trubisky is ahead of Goff from rookie year points of view. Just look at the rookie year. If they bring in the right guy, the right offensive guy, I think Trubisky can be really good. They have amazing running backs. Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen are absolutely incredible. Rushing the ball, Jordan Howard had 1122 yards. That's 6th in the NFL. Cohen had 370, but Cohen had 357 receiving yards as well. Jordan Howard also had another 125. Tariq Cohen, 855 return yards, and he was 5th in the NFL in all-purpose yards. 11 less than Antonio Brown, who was 4th. Think about that. Tariq Cohen is moving the ball for this team, whether it's returning the ball or rushing the ball or receiving the ball. He is moving the football for this team.
Starting field position is everything.
Absolutely. And you saw, the Bears lost a lot of games this year, but they played tough in a lot of games. And I remember watching games. The game against Detroit was tough. One of the games against Green Bay was tough. Also, another pro, I think they re-signed their general manager, Ryan Pace, till 2021. So there is some stability there. And he's drafted pretty well, in my opinion. I mean, look at Tariq Cohen. He's a rookie. And I think the quarterback situation, it's manageable. He can be molded. And their defense was actually 10th this year in total defense. They don't have stars or studs on this team, but they have a nice young team, and I think another year of rebuilding. Not 5-11, but maybe 7-9, 8-8.
Where do you think Kevin White goes into the mix here? Because he was a highly talented wide receiver.
Yeah, no, so I think he's going to be really good, and I think if he can just stay freaking healthy, and that's really his problem. But I do like Cameron Meredith. I think Cameron Meredith, his injury was a little bit fluky, and I think he will be healthy coming back. And I think they're going to sign somebody. I think they're going to draft somebody. I mean, Chicago is a historic franchise.
Oh, absolutely.
And if they get the right coach, I think this could be a great job. The only problems that I have with it here, they're in an incredibly tough division. The Green Bay Packers are amazing with Aaron Rodgers. Minnesota looks like they could have the best roster in the NFL right now. In Detroit, Stafford, he's a franchise guy.
He's not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere, and their defense is pretty good. They have a pretty good home field advantage. And the defense of the Bears could be worse this year if their defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, departs. And another con, what if Trubisky is a dud? So, after all that, I would say the Chicago Bears is the best job for anybody to go to.
Now, I can't disagree, but I have the New York Giants as the best coaching job available.
Okay.
And I say that because they play in New York. New York is just like Chicago. If there's a tier 1A and a tier 1B, Chicago's a tier 1B and New York is the tier 1A. Just like LA would probably be somewhere in the middle of those two.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But New York is definitely the top. It's a great place to play. And they have one of the best wide receivers in the game. Odell Beckham's coming back. He's a difference maker. If they can get somebody to get him the ball, half the plays basically, if he can stay healthy and be Odell Beckham, that's a huge addition for this team. He basically missed every game this year. I think he played 4 games and was injured. So it's considered a premier job around the league. This is considered a premier franchise. It's the New York Football Giants. It's Paul Mara, and John Mara. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said Paul Mara. John Mara. He's known as like the godfather of football, whatever it is. Him and Robert Kraft. So it's just one of those jobs. I thought John Gruden was actually going to take this job if offered to him because it's just that kind of premier job. If you're offered the New York Giants coaching job, you take it. It's one of those jobs. But this is the biggest thing here. They have the 2nd overall pick in not only the first round, but every other round in this draft, plus free agency. They have a lot of room to build this team, and they've already got a pretty good team. They just need to fix that O-line and maybe get a replacement for Eli. I like Wayne Gallman as their running back. I think he's going to keep progressing. Their defense is already pretty good. I know that they didn't look good this year, but I think a lot more went into that. I think that just the whole season kind of went down the drain for the Giants, and so did the defense. They still have playmakers on that defense. They have a room to grow, but they already have, I think, one of the most secure rosters out of the openings for the 5 teams that have head coaching openings still. That's why I'm going with the New York Giants.
My problem with the Giants, what do you do with Eli? I think you have to replace him, but you're also going to be in this situation. The last guy tried to replace him, and it went absolutely terribly. So how's it going to go this time around? And drafting a QB, you absolutely have to draft one no matter what. And it's just like, who are you going to take? Are you going to take Rosen? Are you going to take Donald? You're probably going to take whatever one's left that the Cleveland Browns don't take. But is that the guy that you actually want? Can you control Odell? I know Odell is a great player on the field, and he needs the discipline, and that's actually the problem with this whole team. Can you instill the discipline in this team that Tom Coughlin had? And also, toxic locker room. It also builds into discipline in the locker room, but toxic locker room, can you fix that? The things I do like about this job, though, is the ownership is patient. They don't just run through coaches like crazy. They're patient with you, and you could be known for bringing the Giants back to, greatness. And another thing that I think their defense is loaded. I think they've made really good signings over the course of the last couple of years where their defense is pretty good. I think Eli Apple is a little bit of a bust. But besides that, I think their defense, every single move they've done on the defense has been pretty good. And I think they just re-signed, or they have re-signed their GM, Dave Gettleman. So I think he's a pretty good GM. So, or not re-signed, but they signed him.
They just signed him after releasing Jerry Reese.
Yeah.
You know what? I read this too. Now I know that if Odell is on the team, could be the best wide receiver in the game. He could be better than Antonio Brown. In reality, he makes those one-handed catches. He makes those catches that nobody sees. We missed those catches this year because he was not in the league. But I've also read that there's a possibility the Giants trade him. Now he's got super value right now. He's young. He could be labeled as the best wide receiver in the game, or he could be labeled as 1B next to Antonio Brown. You trade him, you're going to get a heck of a lot of talent back, plus a lot of draft picks to even bolster this roster more. So you can't go wrong with having him or trading him away, because he is due for a big payday. So that you're going to have to do one or the other, but either option is good. And like you said, this roster is loaded with talent. How can I not pick the Giants?
Yeah, okay. All right. I think I had the Giants tied for second, depending on a couple of things. I think if Josh McDaniels went to the Indianapolis Colts, I think that'd be a really good thing. If Andrew Luck is healthy, the con with them is Andrew Luck going to stay healthy? When having Andrew Luck, you've seen Andrew Luck himself, with nothing on the team, take a team to the AFC Championship game. If you build around him a little bit, and the new GM that they just got last year, I think he did a pretty good job. He got some talent, and Brissett, I think Brissett is actually a pretty solid backup. I think he did what he could. Really his rookie
year. The team
year.
is talent deficient at the moment.
Exactly.
But they have the pieces to move forward. They have the draft picks.
T.Y. Hilton's good.
Yeah, and you know what? Andrew Luck is a force to be reckoned with if he can stay healthy.
Tell me yes or no. Top 5 quarterback if he's healthy.
Top 3.
Top 3? Okay.
Yeah. Right behind it'll be Brady. Actually, I lied. It would be Rodgers, Brady, Luck in that order. I think he is better than Drew Brees. He's better than Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay. Yeah. No. I can agree with the first 3 of your list. Yeah. First 3.
What about the other head coaching opening that's no longer vacant?
The Oakland Raiders. 10 years.
100 million.
10 million every year. Oh my God. The John Gruden, the TV personality. I'm telling you.
I'll tell you what, man. Spider 2-eye banana.
So, the Raiders, I think, are absolutely crazy for making this signing. They are the poorest team in the NFL. Al Davis' son,
Mark Davis.
Yeah, Mark Davis, that's it. His everything is in the Raiders. All the other owners, they have other businesses and they're billionaires. Don't get me wrong, the Raiders are worth $1 billion. If you sold a team, they'd be worth over $1 billion.
Maybe he can invest in a haircutting place. He's got the world's worst haircut.
But this feels like, and I brought this up to you before, this feels like to me when the Kings tried to sign Barry Melrose back when he was, in the NHL for a long time. He was a TV guy talking about the NHL for a long time. It just feels like that kind of thing. And does he get fired? A
couple years later.
Yeah,
he did not look good with the Kings.
It was absolutely terrible. This is what this feels like to me. And I don't hate John Gruden. I think he won a Super Bowl, obviously, with the Buccaneers. However, he did steal Tony Dungy's team, and he beat the Raiders. But be fair, he brought the Raiders to the point that they were. But beating the Raiders in the Super Bowl, he kind of,
sweet revenge.
Yeah, he kind of had he knew the Raiders personnel because it was 2 years after the fact. So he was very aware of what he was doing with that.
He does have a winning record for his career. I don't know those exact numbers. He had a winning record with the Bucs and with Oakland. They're almost 500, but
Yeah.
I think I want to say it's like 95 and 86, somewhere in that range.
Okay, yeah. So to me, I think it's absolutely stupid. I think it's crazy, and I don't see him. I see him going about 3 years in this because unless Derek Carr turns his team around, which I think could happen, but
There's so much more than just Derek Carr. Their defense is so
defense
bad.
is bad. Defense is bad. They didn't have any. They had like 2 takeaways this entire season.
Yeah,
and I want to say takeaways. Takeaways, we agree, they're mostly luck, but this is absurdly unlucky to a point where, okay, you're just really bad at taking the ball away.
Well, let me ask you this. Where do you think John Gruden's best fit would have been if he didn't sign with Oakland? Because I think it was clear that he wanted to come out of the press box.
Yeah, no, I think it was clear. I mean, ESPN was trying to get him out anyway, and I think he wanted to come out, and I think the Buccaneers' job would have made sense. I don't understand why the Buccaneers are staying with Cutter. I have a couple.
Why they hired him to begin with?
Well, I mean, I have a couple of friends that like the hiring, but they don't understand why they're keeping him. He's just terrible at play calling. Not to mention, I mean, the Buccaneers did have a lot of injuries, so it did kind of hamper the season down. But I mean, I think that would have made sense to having Gruden. Not that I would have paid him $10 million every year for 10 years and not giving the guy $100 million. But that's the kind of thing you have to do if you want John Gruden.
Now, I think the best fit for John Gruden, call me crazy, but the Detroit Lions. I know he'd never end up there, but you have Matthew Stafford. He could be a top 5 quarterback under the right coach. They have a lot of talent on that team, offensively and defensively. They got to get Amir Abdullah going somehow. Yeah. No, he's a phenomenal running back. He broke all kinds of college records, if I'm not mistaken, and he comes in the NFL and he can't do anything. I think that John, if he would have been a good fit for the Detroit Lions. I just don't think he ever considered it, and that's why I don't think the Detroit Lions ever considered him back. But I think that would have been the best marriage.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the pros of the Lions, I mean, Matt Stafford, top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Agree or disagree?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, so I mean, franchise guy, yeah, he's 30. That window is closing a little bit, but you probably got 3 more years of Stafford's prime, and they're slinging the ball like crazy. They have great wide receivers, a great trio of wide receivers, and the defense is solid. They have ball hawks. Yes. They're 4th in the NFL in interceptions, 2nd in the NFL in fumbles recovered. They're absolute ball hawks, and Lions say roar. So, but the cons, terrible running game, 32nd in the NFL. And the O-line doesn't look like it can run block at all. And the thing is, you are the Detroit Lions. You haven't won a playoff game. No matter what it is, it's that stigma of haven't won a playoff game since 1991, and it's a tough division.
What if, and you can also look at it the other way though, and what if you bring the Detroit Lions to the promised land? Now you are the savior of Detroit.
Yeah. It's a better situation to go to like that. If you like losers of franchises, like I'd much rather have the Lions over the Browns.
Oh, absolutely.
Or the Lions over the Bills.
And you know what? The Lions also play inside.
Yeah, exactly. You're not dealing with the weather.
Yeah.
And Minnesota, when you play Minnesota, they're playing in a dome as well. The only times those cold games in Green Bay and in Chicago, obviously.
And it's
tough.
2 games out of the year.
Yeah, 2 games.
Instead of possibly 14 or 15 games out of the year.
Exactly. Now I just want to quickly harp on something, since we covered all the teams except the Cardinals. I just want to quickly harp on this. I think the pros of this job, the defense is absolutely loaded with playmakers, absolutely loaded. And David Johnson, he's the best running back in the NFL when he's healthy. I mean, he was taking number 1 in every single draft. Maybe Le'Veon Bell, but now maybe Todd Gurley. But
this guy took Le'Veon Bell and somehow ended up with David Johnson too. How do I skill that?
Yeah, well, you play.
I should be the NFL. I should be an NFL general manager. Is what I should be.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're such a brilliant guy for wanting David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell. Nobody ever thought of that. But yeah, but no, it is. However you finesse that, you must be playing with people that don't know fantasy football.
I had to give up Aaron Rodgers and Todd Gurley, so I mean,
okay,
I did give up a lot, but
okay.
it didn't end up working out for either of us because Aaron Rodgers got hurt too.
But I think the number 1 pro for going to Arizona, the Arizona Cardinals, is you got some nice weather, man. You got some stupid, beautiful weather. I hate though they need a QB.
Yeah, Carson Palmer's done.
And I think Larry Fitzgerald and Adrian Peterson
might call it a career.
And please, Larry Fitzgerald, you're on my keeper team. I need you to play 1 more year. I need 1 more year out of you, Larry. 1 more year.
You think he would actually do good though without having a steady quarterback all year?
Drew Stan played well with Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald did not miss a beat when Drew Stanton was throwing him the rock. Even Blaine Gabbert, Larry Fitzgerald's numbers only dipped a little bit, and Blaine Gabbert's absolutely atrocious.
Well, Fitz is known for having the best hands in the league. He
Yeah.
may not be the best receiver, but he catches everything. He does not drop the ball.
Absolutely, and he was scoring against those tougher defenses. Another thing that I don't like about this is their division is really tough. I think the Rams are going to be good for a long time. Seattle, you predict that they're going to fall off a little bit, but it hasn't happened yet. Russell Wilson's still Russell Wilson. This is his first bad year. They still went 9-7 for a bad year. So I think that's...
Well, Russell Wilson didn't have a bad year. The Seahawks did.
Exactly. Well, he had a bad year last couple games.
Yeah.
But, another thing is this could be a full total rebuild, like 100% to the max, full total rebuild. So, yeah, that's why I think Arizona's the worst job out of all of them.
I can't disagree with that. The only thing I like about that job in reality is that they're in Arizona and they play in a dome, so you don't have to deal with the actual heat during the games.
Exactly. All right, now we're going into our NFL playoff predictions here. We're going to go weekend by weekend. James, who do you got in the first game of the playoffs between the Chiefs and the Titans?
Well, this is an easy one. The Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
For none other than they're going to roll all over the Titans.
Yeah, no, I saw a pretty interesting stat that the Chiefs, how terrible their defense has been this year, they still have not given up 20 points or more at home this season, even with the terrible defense. And they score they've been able to score at home. And I think right now the offense is better when they were going through their 5-game winning streak. So I think the Chiefs are going to win 30-10. The Titans, Mariota, you love to give the stat that he hasn't thrown a red zone pick, but he's thrown more picks this year than his rookie year. And so I don't care. He can't even get to the red zone. That's why he's not
more
throwing
picks than touchdowns this year. Mariota had an off year.
And the only way I could see Tennessee winning this game is, I mean, they do have a really good defense, but I just don't. Then they have to grind this game out. Derrick Henry has to have a good game because DeMarco Murray is most likely not going to play this game.
No, he's out.
Yeah,
he is out.
Exactly.
He is out.
So there, exactly. So it's got to be the Derrick Henry show. I have the Chiefs winning 30-10. Going on to the next game in the AFC, Jags over Bills. I have the Jags beating the Bills very, very slightly. I think this game is going to be slowly grinded out. They realize Blake Bortles is not as good as he was the first 3 games of December. I mean, it should tell you how bad the Seahawks were this year because Blake Bortles tore them up.
That tells you a lot.
Yeah, he's made mistakes the last couple of games. They could have won both games against the 49ers and against the Titans. If he did not make those crucial mistakes, they're going to grind this game out. I think he's going to play decent. Don't throw the ball more than 20 times. 21 maybe max, but just run the ball, grind this game out. And I think the defense is going to score. I have the Jags winning 20-13.
You took Leonard Fournette at 4 for a reason.
Yeah.
Give him the rock. But I got the Bills winning this game. I got them winning their first playoff game in a while. If LaShawn McCoy plays, I'm banking on him playing. Reason B, because the Jaguars, yes, they got the number 1 defense in the league. But Blake Bortles really is turnover prone. He does throw a lot of interceptions. And the Bills, they got a pretty solid defense, but the key here is that Tyrod Taylor does not turn the ball over. So unless the Jaguars can get 3, 4, maybe 5 turnovers in this game, I think the Bills will control the possession of this game, and I think they'll take advantage of it. I think it'll be a low-scoring game, 13-10, somewhere in that range. I think the Bills just edge them out, but this is banking on LaShawn McCoy playing. Let me just state that if LaShawn McCoy does not play, this is not a game.
Yeah, that's another thing, too. I completely forgot. We talked about it in the prep, but I completely forgot. I don't think he's going to play, and even if he does play, it doesn't look good. I mean, he came out of that Miami game, and they needed to win that game to make the playoffs. I mean, I know they were up by a good amount, but Miami was coming back, and he was out of the game, and they weren't going to bring him back into that game, and that was super desperation mode. We got to win this game, and we need other stuff to happen. But going into the next game, Falcons and Rams, Saturday. I have the Falcons beating the Rams in Los Angeles, 27-13. Look, the Falcons, they have not missed a single beat on offense, yards per play wise, since last year when they went to the Super Bowl and when Matt Ryan won the MVP. The only difference is Devonta Freeman has fumbled a couple times in the red zone the last couple of games, and Matt Ryan, the play calling of Steve Sarkisian is terrible. The last couple weeks have been good. They had to win these tough games over the last 5 or 6 weeks to, they've been playing playoff games 5 or 6 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
So these games, that these kind of situations they've been in, they know they are used to the pressure. I think this is going to be a good thing for them that they've had all these tough games going in. And the Rams, they rested all their starters last week. And I think with a young team, I don't think that's good. With an older team and a savvy team, I think that's good. When you are a young team and you've been rolling rampant on all the teams that you've played, I like continuing that momentum when you're the young team. They rested their starters. Give me the Falcons, but it's going to be a close one because I'm nervous about the Falcons actually converting in the red zone and Steve Sarkisian calling the right plays. I think he will. And also another thing that I want to bring up, Jared Goff is 13 for 30 when the Rams are down by between 4 and 7 points. So it's a situation in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left or less. He's 13 for 30 in that situation. I think that's
under 50%.
And I think that's significant because this is when you have to throw the football. The other team is just trying. They don't want to give up a possession. So in that time frame, he is 13 for 30. Not good. I know, and there's games where against the Seahawks earlier in the year at home, where Cooper Kupp, it went right off of his hands, and if he got that, it was in the end zone. That would have been a touchdown. Obviously, better numbers there, but I think he relies on Todd Gurley too much, and if Todd Gurley doesn't have that breakout play, then I don't think it's good for the Rams.
Well, that's who I have the Rams beating the Falcons based on exactly what you just said. I think Todd Gurley will have at least a couple breakout plays this game. They may not go for touchdowns, but I could see a 40-yard run, maybe down into the red zone, somewhere in that range. I think they're going to ride Todd Gurley all the way. I think that they know it's either win or go home. I think Todd Gurley's going to get the ball 30, 35 times between rushing and catching the ball. And you know what? The Falcons, if they have any chance, they need Julio Jones to get going.
I think they're going to absolutely get him going, and I think if they can just run the ball with Freeman and Coleman, like these guys are studs, use them. You just paid Freeman all this freaking money, use him. And stop making Matt Ryan throw all 35 times a game because then he makes mistakes.
Yeah, and Matt Ryan, they call him Matty Ice because he's got ice in his veins. But you know what?
And you know what? I don't mind him on the final drive, but it's just like everything in between. If he's doing too much, I don't like it.
I think the Rams will dominate the time of possession in this game, and I think that it'll be close. I'm saying 2017 Rams.
Okay. Final game of the weekend, Saints and Panthers in New Orleans. Now, the Saints have beaten them twice this year, and they beat them pretty good. I think they beat them by 10 about 5 weeks ago, and they beat them by about 20 in Carolina. I think it was week 3, week 4. So
it was week 3, yes, because it was the Saints' first win of the season. They started 0-2.
Exactly. So since then, they've been on an absolute roll. The only thing and I think the Saints they're going to do very well this game. I think they're going to win by 7 or 8 points. The only thing that concerns me is Carolina with Cam Newton. He's super inconsistent, but he can have those games like he had against New England, like he had against Detroit. He's had
where he looks like an MVP.
Exactly. And running quarterbacks, which Cam Newton is, they are better in the playoffs. They're more willing to risk it instead of maybe week 4, you're down by 15, you're down by 10, let's say. You're not going to
risk your body.
You're not going to risk your body. You're going to make a business decision. However, if it's 3rd and 8 in a playoff game and you're down by 5, you're going to do it. You're going to be risking your body.
You're going to do everything you can to get that first down.
Exactly. And Cam's able to make those kinds of plays. But like we said, Kamara and Ingram have been absolutely sensational, and Drew Brees has been super efficient because of the running backs have been so good.
Well, I got the Saints too for all of those reasons you just said, but the one thing that really scares me, because it's the Panthers, is that it's really hard to beat a team 3 times in one season.
Exactly.
And that's the only thing that's giving me hesitation now. I'm still rolling with the Saints. I'm still rolling with them. I picked them to go 12-4 before this season. I love that pick. And I'm rolling with them here, but that scares me. It's hard to beat the team 3 times.
An interesting stat here. The year the Giants ended up winning the Super Bowl and beating the Patriots the first time, the Giants had to play the Cowboys in the divisional round of the playoffs. So the second round, they won their first game. I think they played Tampa Bay that year, and they beat Tampa that year in the playoffs Tampa.
Then they beat the Cowboys.
And then they beat the Cowboys. But the Cowboys game, that year, that was the year the Cowboys had Tony Romo and Terrell Owens, and they were like 13-3 that year, and they destroyed the Giants both games early in that year. They were putting up mad points. T.O. and Tony Romo were absolutely balling out. So that was a situation where a team that was 2-0 against a team going on that third game, are they going to win 3? Are they going to go 3-0 or not? And they absolutely flopped, and that team ended up winning the Super Bowl.
And the Giants were only 9-7 that year.
Exactly.
They did not look like a good team. They went in as a wild card.
In Carolina, I believe 11-5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
this is going to be a good game.
Yeah.
It scares me, but I think that the experience of Drew Brees in that locker room, let alone on the field, is really what's going to help the Saints here.
all right, yeah. We're just gonna go quickly through the divisional round. We don't want to speculate too much on certain things, but I have the Patriots over the Chiefs. I think it's gonna be close. Jags over the Steelers. I think it's going to be a similar game to how it was the first time, but Jacksonville is not gonna have however many pick sixes that they had. I think the game's going to be a lot more grinded out. Because I have the Falcons winning, the Falcons will be playing the Eagles, and I think the Falcons are going to take care of the Eagles. I don't have any trust in Nick Foles at all. And then the Saints over the Vikings. I think Saints are going to grind that game out. I think they're a much different team than Week 1 when Minnesota absolutely destroyed them. Give me the Saints, and those are my predictions for the divisional round. What are your predictions quickly for the divisional round?
Well, quickly, I've got the Bills losing to the Patriots. No surprise there.
Okay, yeah.
I've got the Steelers beating the Chiefs. No surprise there.
We just had that stat though. Patriots beat the Bills twice this regular season. Yeah,
it doesn't go. It doesn't count towards the Patriots.
Okay.
Steelers are going to beat the Chiefs. So it's, as I said at the beginning of the season, it's going to be a Steelers-Patriots AFC Championship game. I've got the Saints playing the Eagles because the Rams are going to beat the Falcons, in my opinion. The Saints would match up against the Eagles. Losing Carson Wentz, this game is not a game the Saints are going to run away with.
I think the Saints would dominate that game.
That game is over before it even started. The Rams are going to beat the Vikings. Now, this is the game of the year that I want to see. Rams versus Vikings, because it's two teams that I didn't see being in the playoffs. And now they're going to be facing off in the divisional round. This is going to be a great game. I have the Rams just edging out the Vikings. Yes, we will go another year with a team not making the Super Bowl in their hometown.
Interesting.
Even though the Vikings will come close this year.
Interesting. Because sorry to interrupt you, but I think just if the Vikings played the Rams, I think the Vikings would actually edge that one out. But if they played the Saints, I don't think they could.
It's going to be tough. The Vikings are a good team. I just think the inexperience of Case Keenum is where it's going to hurt.
I agree with that.
Because their defense is superb. It's just phenomenal. I got the Saints beating the Rams, though. So I got the Saints starting 0-2. Saints are headed to the Super Bowl to face who other than the Pittsburgh Steelers, who will take out the New England Patriots in the AFC Championship game this year. This is if Antonio Brown is back healthy. I fully expect he will be. But it's like a jinx. Last year, the Steelers-Patriots played. Le'Veon Bell gets hurt. This year, the Steelers-Patriots play. In the regular season, AB gets hurt.
Hey, but let's be fair, though. I know it's not the same as losing AB, but Rex Burkhead did get hurt in that game for the Patriots. And you laugh.
No, I know. He had big numbers.
But the last couple of games, he was the target Brady was always going to, and he was scoring.
Oh, yeah. James White took a back seat to Rex Burkhead. So I can't. But it's just funny because it's like AB, Rex Burkhead.
No. But you're losing a main target is my point. And the reason why I have the Jags beating the Steelers is because I'm not sure if AB is going to be ready to come back. And if he's not playing, then you put Jalen Ramsey on Martavis Bryant and everybody, and AJ Boyd just moves to the next receiver. And
Juju Smith-Schuster's the real deal, though.
Yeah, but that Jags defense, I think if Pittsburgh's going to beat Jacksonville, it's going to be on the ground, not in the air.
Well, you got the best running back in the league. You got to feed Le'Veon Bell.
Absolutely.
I think there's a stat. Every time if Le'Veon Bell touches the ball 20 or more times, they're undefeated. If he touches it less than 20 times, they only have one win, or something like that over the last 2 seasons. So it's a big chunk of change to look at there. The stats tell you all. You got to give the ball to Le'Veon Bell.
I have the Saints beating the Falcons in the NFC Championship game. I don't think that game is going to be as close as everybody thinks. I think it's going to be pretty much of a blowout. And then I have the Patriots beating the Jags. It's going to be super low scoring. I know I'm super homer pick here. My 2 favorite teams in the AFC Championship.
That would be a hell of a game to watch.
Yeah, no, that would be awesome. And just a little, I want to point out here. I had the Titans and the Patriots in my AFC Championship game. That was my bold prediction. If the Titans end up beating the Chiefs, they'd play the Patriots in the next round, so that matchup couldn't even happen. But that's what would happen, I guess, if my championship from the beginning of the season. So, but that can't happen for me.
There's no chance that the Chiefs are losing to the Titans, and if they do, I'll wear the Patriots jersey that I'm supposed to wear.
There you go. All right, and then finally, I have the Patriots beating the Saints, Tom Brady back-to-back, 30-27 by a field goal. The Patriots never win these Super Bowls easily at all.
Nope.
They are either losing, they have the greatest comeback, or they look like they're going to win, and then in
Then they
2001,
lose.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So
I feel like it comes down to the last play every single time.
every time,
At
they're in
least the
Super
last
Bowl-
four. At least the last four.
Every single Super Bowl they've been in has been a one-possession game. All 8 have been a one-possession game.
I like to see
The first
that.
3 were by 3 points, and then they lost to the Giants. What was it, by 3?
Yeah, 17-14.
And then they lost to the Giants again by, was it 4?
I'm not exactly
Yeah, it-
sure the second time.
Okay, but then they beat the Seahawks by 4, and then they beat the. I mean, they beat
That
the
came
Falcons
down to
by,
the last play. It was ball on the one.
It was 6 points, but it was a one-possession game and the first ever overtime game. So. Yeah, Patriots Saints, and it's funny you have Steelers Saints, so we both think the Saints are going to play pretty well this season.
Yeah, a quick question before I say who's going to win the Super Bowl for me. If the Patriots do win, does Tom Brady walk away as the greatest of football time of all player, breaking the record for the most Super Bowl rings of any position, any player ever?
No, he doesn't, because he wants to play till he's 45.
Well, good luck, Tom Brady, because even if you can play till you're 45, I would put $100 on it that he gets a career-ending injury before he turns 45.
Well, I think he's going to play until he has that injury or until he's 45. I think it's part of his business plan and part of his business model that, hey, I'm doing this stuff and it works and this is why it works. And if you do this, and I heard they actually got it from Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan pitched into his mid-40s, so that's when the body can officially no longer recover from dinks and dunks and bruises and stuff like that. So that's the only reason why I say no. I could see maybe Bill.
Rafael Palmeiro in baseball wants to come back at 53.
Yeah,
And he showed. There's
All
videos
right.
of him in the batting cages.
He's probably roided up right now, so I don't really care what Rafael Palmeiro says.
Well, back to my prediction though. I got the Steelers beating the Saints. So we both have the Saints losing the Super Bowl.
Yep.
It's a long way to come though, because they've been terrible on defense the last 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
But my prediction at the beginning of the season was Green Bay, Pittsburgh. Green Bay winning. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers as the MVP of the league because his team was absolutely terrible when he went out.
Yeah.
Shows they couldn't make it. I still have the Steelers going, but this time I have the Steelers winning, and they will capture. I believe it's their 7th championship
Yeah, it
in
would be.
NFL history.
Yeah, and my prediction at the beginning of the year was Patriots over the Panthers. Definitely could still happen. We'll see how it goes. I mean, maybe I have the Saints beating the Panthers in the first round, but I think if the Panthers win that game, watch out.
Well, it's going to be
If Cam Newton has that playoffs where we saw him have in the year they ended up losing the Super Bowl.
2015.
Yeah, if he has that kind of run, watch out, because he's super freaking talented.
Oh, he could be the best quarterback in the league if he put his mind to it. He's
Yeah.
the biggest quarterback in the league, if I'm not mistaken, at 6'6". He's the heaviest quarterback in the league.
No, you forgot about the ostrich.
Osweiler.
Yeah, he's like 6'10", or
He's 6'7", but
gangly,
I don't consider the Brockweiler as a real quarterback. So he just reminds me of Oscar the Grouch for some reason. But yeah, so it's gonna be a heck of a playoffs this year. And just quickly, I have to touch on this because the season is over.
Yep.
You knew it was coming at some
Absolutely.
point.
I knew it was coming.
I actually have finally won the bet between us. I think it came down to 2 games or 1 game. What was the final records between us two?
You had a 2-game advantage on me, but what's funny about this is because when we were going through the prep, I talked you out of 2 different picks.
You talked me out of the Rams pick the last
Yeah,
week, and I ended up going with the Bills, and they won.
Yeah, you ended up going with the Bills, and it was funny too because I had 7 picks last week that I actually put money on and bet on, and if I felt the 2 that I left out, I didn't feel as good about it, but even though I still put the
you
money,
won those
and
2.
I won those 2. So if I won those 2, we would be going for a tiebreaker right now in the playoffs of this week.
Well,
yeah.
we got a nice Jets jersey here in my hand for you to wear.
Yep, I'll be putting it on.
Well, don't worry. I just announced it, so if I can't go back on it now, if the Titans lose this or win this week against the Chiefs, I'll be wearing the Patriots jersey.
Yeah.
Because I said
Very
it.
good.
But so I won the bet. It was could it come any closer?
I mean, it's honestly insane because this is both our first years doing this, and I was actually putting money up. I had other bets too that I didn't put in my 5 picks, but I was betting all year long, and I don't want to brag, but I mean, this is why you should continue to listen to us. If you put the money too down, I know you were thinking about it.
I did a couple games, but I
Yeah.
did not do every game.
But if you did, just to give you a perspective, I started, my bankroll was 50, and right now I betted on a couple college football games, but mostly NFL. And my bankroll right now, I haven't put any more money in. I'm at $130.
All right.
So I more than doubled it, almost tripled it. So we both went like 57%. It's funny because we didn't count week 1, and I did week 1, and I went 4-1 in that time. So. Yeah, we'll see. I'm not salty. I'm just bringing it up.
The reason why I didn't actually bet on more games was because the amount that you have to deposit into these websites, it's a high amount.
Yeah.
And as we all know, actually we might not know, but I know you know that I'd lost my job for a little while. For 3 months or so, I really was not making great money. I just couldn't afford to deposit that much to bet on these games, but it doesn't mean that I don't know what I'm talking about or that I'm not doing good.
Absolutely not. We both did very well. You beat me by a speck of a percentage, and I congratulate you, and I will fulfill the bet, and I'll be very sad about it.
All right, well, it'll be the first, only, and last time you wear a Jets jersey, but guess what? It'll be on Facebook forever.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. All right. Coming up next week, we have another loaded show. I think we're going to be getting a little bit into the NHL, a little bit into the MLB, maybe a little bit of NBA. We're definitely not going to ignore the NFL. And, of course, the BCS National Championship game we're definitely going to talk about a little bit.
Roll Tide!
You're listening to Between the Hash Marks.